Tennessee getting ready for a big one Saturday night against Oklahoma at Neyland Stadium. Alongside Patrick Brown, I'm Ryan Callahan with this Vols 24/7 No-Huddle. Spoke with a couple Tennessee assistant coaches, Rodney Garner and Alec Ablin, along with a couple Tennessee wide receivers, Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley, as the Vols continue getting ready for Saturday's home game, 7:30 Eastern Time on ABC. You got the A crew of Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit. Who else is in that?
Holly Rome.
And in the booth and on the sideline. So a lot of attention on that game. Big stakes for both teams, with each one having 2 losses and needing to win out to have a shot at making the college football playoff. And Oklahoma having lost 2 of its last 3. Tennessee doesn't feel like it's playing particularly well. Interesting setup going into this game. And that sort of leads us to what Rodney Garner had to talk about, answering a lot of questions, obviously, about just sort of the big picture about where this defense is as a whole, when obviously the defensive line is only a part of that. But obviously he thinks some of the, like any coach is going to think, that some of the issues that they're seeing on Saturdays are fixable despite the recurring issues they've had.
Yeah, he made it clear that nobody is pleased with how they're playing on the defensive line or anywhere else on the defense. And he pointed to the coaching staff, said it starts there. You know, we got to teach some things better. He talked about looking at the man in the mirror, and that's where it's got to start. And he talked about taking pride, and that's coaches and players all together on their own, taking pride in how you play and how you prepare, and finding ways to get this thing back on track. He did say that he thinks everything is fixable in the here and now. It doesn't, it's not anything that's broken beyond, like, you need to overhaul this position group or anything like that. Right. So there's some confidence there that they can fix some of this stuff, and they see it when they give up plays on film. But he kind of said some of the same stuff, like they've got to sort of tie in all 3 groups, all 3 levels together. There's if you miss a gap or get out of a gap on the defensive line, that puts a linebacker in a bad spot. If you're in the wrong gap at linebacker, your safety behind that's in a bad spot or out of place. So they're trying to figure it out and work through it, and we'll just have to see if they can produce any improvement on Saturday night, because I feel like we've been talking about it all week. Tennessee scores 56 points, and all anyone can talk about is the defense, because it's kind of not a 5-alarm fire, Ryan, but it's close. Never good when you give up that many yards and points to Kentucky. So now you're playing a dynamic quarterback in John Mateer, and so they've got to figure it out. I think they're clearly trying to figure out. Rodney Garner said there's plenty of urgency from the coaching staff, and they're trying to get it fixed.
If you're going to make some, schematic changes or anything like that, you would think this is about the time to do it.
Yeah, you maybe just go with a simpler game plan, just to try to get your guys playing faster.
Yeah, but yeah, the number's not pretty. Tennessee's still 3rd in the league in tackles for loss, I believe, 4th in the league in sacks, but 15th in the league in total defense, 15th in the league in scoring defense, and 16th in passing defense.
How many teams are in the SEC, Ryan?
16, so not too good. Dead last in the league in passing defense. Even the run defense, which has been respectable lately, 11th in the conference. So just not a good year across the board after what was a top 10 defense really nationally last year that led Tennessee to the college football playoff. At the tight end position, obviously Miles Kitselman still leading that group. The big news there was Ethan Davis got back in the lineup last week, caught a touchdown pass, a nice showing from him. And Jack Van Dorselaer, the freshman, has continued to be a pretty solid guy and not making freshman mistakes, it sounds like, a lot at the tight end position.
Yeah, Alec Ablin was pleased with how Ethan Davis sort of went through his injury recovery and getting back on the field, and once he got back on the field, being ready to contribute and make some plays. So, it's easy for players to get frustrated. Ablin said that it was a shoulder deal with Davis that was sort of not in his control. What was keeping him off the field. So, you have to kind of persevere through that and stay ready and continue to keep your spirits up. And Davis goes out there and makes a couple big plays on the touchdown drive before halftime. His playing time came somewhat at expense of Jack Van Dorselaer, but he still played. Something I like about Van Dorselaer the other night was he got a holding penalty in the first quarter, I believe, but then comes back and has 2 really good blocks on 2 runs that right after that a big run down to the goal line and then the touchdown run itself. So and Ablin talked about just how his maturity is sort of showing up, and he's not making, quote, freshman mistakes. He's still got ways to go and things to correct, but he's not making just sort of first-year young player kind of mistakes, and that kind of speaks to the maturity that he has.
Definitely, and they talked about that a lot earlier this year, even just the program that he came from in Texas, coming from a big school, big football program that he played on both sides of the ball in high school, but just came in physically ready and kind of mentally ready for that challenge as well.
That room looks pretty good now. It's complete. You got Ethan Davis who can make some plays in the passing game, and Van Dorselaer who's a solid kind of in the core blocker type that's done a good job when he's gotten opportunities.
Yeah, nice complementing skill sets there. And then at wide receiver, obviously those guys coming off 3 100-yard games with Mike Matthews, Chris Brazzell, and Braylon Staley all topping the 100-yard mark against Kentucky. And, nothing but good vibes for the most part from that group. Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley getting to talk about sort of what that was like. Staley getting the late catch that put him over 100 yards and gave them the 3 100-yard receivers. First time Tennessee had done that in a game since 2019 when Jawan Jennings, Josh Palmer, and Marquez Callaway did it against Missouri under Jeremy Pruitt. Not a stat people expect to hear. It was a 24-20 game at that, but Tennessee threw for 400-something yards in that game, and those guys each had 100 yards. So, pretty good day overall, and a reminder that group is explosive enough to do have that kind of performance against anybody.
Yeah, and I asked Mike Matthews about something that Kelsey Pope said last week about how they're just running more different kinds of routes. And you've seen that over the last 2 games, some deep outs against Alabama. First, I think in the second play of the game, Matthews sort of starts like he's going on a corner route, then breaks it off and runs a comeback. Really good route, really good technique, got open, and that got that first drive going. And I asked Matthews about it, and he said, yeah, we're doing more stuff. We're having to work, you had to really kind of attack it this offseason mentally, taking notes, going out there and walking through it to sort of build that technique into your repertoire and sort of expand the route tree, because that's been a criticism of this offense. But certainly this offense that they're running this year is a little bit different in some of the stuff they're doing lineup-wise and route-wise. So those guys are playing really well. Braylon Staley walks in, he's got a huge smile on his face. He usually does, but I think those guys are loving life. They're loving playing with Joey Aguilar, who's giving them chances to make plays, and they're delivering for them.
And a little bit of award watch list news. Colton Hood, the redshirt sophomore cornerback, Colorado transfer, has been a really good player for Tennessee this year. A semifinalist for the Thorpe Award, given to the nation's best defensive back. So 15.
Yeah, but is he going to play this year? Is he going to play this week, though?
We'll see. Josh Heupel, of course, didn't want to say much about that Monday. Looking pretty optimistic, I would say, that he'll be out there Saturday night. But we'll be keeping an eye on the injury report when it comes out Wednesday night, and it'll be updated on Thursday and Friday night as well, leading up to Saturday's game. Plenty of coverage throughout the week on GoVols 24/7, and we'll have a podcast on Thursday. Plenty more on the way as Tennessee gets ready for this big home game, dark mode, sellout crowd. Should be a fun environment, and a big recruiting weekend expected as well. Plenty of coverage of that already on the site, and more to come throughout the week. For Patrick Brown, I'm Ryan Callahan.